Okay, let's do some analysis here. Oh, that's not going to let me go underneath the staff. Okay, so we're in the key of G minor. We know that because that's the name of the piece. So let's assume that that's correct, which is a pretty safe assumption. Okay, so we're in G minor. So we're just gonna figure out what are our implied chords from this melody. Okay, so G, D, B. There's our B flat. There's our arpeggio, right? So that is a super strong 1. Okay, let's call this a passing note down to here. So now we have G, B flat again. That looks like 1 passing note to G. So I'm going to call that first half of this bar a 1. Okay, now I have this F sharp already in F sharp. Is that right? It is right. All right, well, what are we going to do with that F sharp? It's a leading tone, right? So that tells us probably we've moved to a 5 chord. So let's see what we can do with that. D, F sharp, A. That makes a nice little triad, which is 5 of G. And we're in the major 5 because we've raised that leading tone. Totally okay in a minor key. Nothing weird there. Okay, so we've got 1, 5 there. Here we have G, D, A, D, B flat. If we call that A passing note again, we have just a big old 1 right there. So let's call that a 1. How about here? There are 2 of this A, which makes me think it's not a passing tone. It's also on a stronger beat here, but I've also got this B flat and a D. I think we've gone to a 5 chord again here. So we don't have that F sharp, but we have D, A. Can I make any sense of that B flat? Probably not. That's probably just going to be a passing tone down to here. It doesn't really make any sense as a 7th or anything like that. But I'm pretty comfortable calling that a 5, even though we don't have that 3rd in there. I think this is clearly the root of the chord that's happening here. And this D, A really kind of points us to that. So let's call it a 5. Now you may be thinking, why isn't it a minor 5? Because if we don't know what the 3rd is, shouldn't we go with what's in key, which would be a minor 5? That would be a very smart thing for you to think. But I would disagree. I think we're a major 5 here because we've had a major 5 already. We don't have an F sharp, but we can assume if we did have one, it would probably be the same as that. So it's probably a major 5. Cool. Let's go on. Let's see, we've got here G, D, G, A, D, A. Now we could start calling this 1 chord per beat if we think that's what's going to happen here. So G, D, G, that feels like 1. A, D, A, that feels like 5. Let's call that a 5. B flat, A, G. If we call that A passing, we have a 1 again. G to B flat. A, D, D, C. That C may or may not be relevant. Here we have A, D, D. That looks like a 5 chord. This makes it a 5-7 chord, which it could be, but we don't have the 3rd, so I don't know if we want to really call that a 5-7. It might be that we really just feels like a 5. That doesn't heavily feel like a 7, but it is a 7. So let's go with it, I think. Okay, then back to here. B flat, A, G, B flat. That feels like another 1. A, G, F sharp, A. That feels like a 5 again because of that big F sharp. And then this G is just a single note, but certainly does feel like a 1. Okay, so what do we have in our melody here? We have a whole bunch of 1 and 5. It doesn't always have to be that way. It doesn't have to be just 1 and 5. But I think in this case, that's what we have. Let's see if it feels that way. I'm going to slow it down a little bit more. See if you feel like 1 and 5 in this. I think it does. One thing we could do is we could add another staff and just plug in some chords. Let's do it just for fun. Okay, I'm going to add a keyboard, and I'll actually really only need one staff to do this, but that's okay. Let's do this. This is something I like to do just to test if your analysis feels right, So we're going to say there's our 1, and I'm just going to do this with half notes. Still 1, 5. Let's do this. D, F sharp, A. I'm trying to use reasonably okay voice leading. Don't really care about voice leading too much here, but 5, 1. Oops, now I need quarter notes though. Do it with quarter notes. Okay. This is exceptionally useful when you're trying to figure out the chords implied by a single melody, right? Because these are only one note at a time. It can be hard to tell exactly what chord is being implied by the melody. So we're just going to add the chords in here, and if we analyze this correctly, this should sound okay. It's not going to sound super exciting, but nothing should sound off. Let's hear it. Okay, something did sound really off, though. It was this B flat that we questioned, right? Because we had, what we had here was a B flat and then G, A, D. And we thought maybe that was a 5, but now I think maybe it's a 1 because that B flat really does stick out. So let's try putting a 1 there, and then I'm going to do one more thing just because it's going to sound a little bit better if we just take this whole thing down an octave. So let's transpose down by interval, perfect octave. Okay. Oops, we went up. That's not what I wanted to do. Did I not select down? Down, that's what I meant to select. Oh, by interval down, that's what I had to do. Got it. Okay, let's hear it now. Okay, cool, I think we got it. So that means we need to change this to a 1. Or we could get rid of it, because if there's nothing here, that means this whole bar is 1. But we'll just leave a 1 there. Okay, cool. So now we know what's in our subject. Let's move on and talk about the answer, real answer, tonal answer, and also counter subject.